questions related to this subject. The first question covers specifically Proposition B. And for the benefit of all the audience, if you haven't been following it, the major provisions of Proposition B, which will be on the ballot, and we are all being asked to vote yes or no, will limit the current city workers' future pension benefits to 2011 levels, and it would provide all new hires, except for sworn police officers, with a defined contribution plan, similar to a 401k plan. Now, Mr. Fletcher, Nathan, I believe that you support this initiative, and if that's the case, would you please tell us why?
Yeah, I support it because we can design a secure and stable retirement for our workers. The rest of the world has changed in terms of retirement, and I think the government can catch up. I would first put workers back in Social Security, and then I would build a defined annuity type program on top of it. And then you implement the other provision of it, which has to be done through negotiations, which is the 5-year freeze in pensionable pay, which is similar to what's in Bob's plan, and that's what generates almost all of the savings. And that has to be done through negotiations, through a process you sit down and work out with your city workers. And it's important that we do it because of the mistakes of the past, and we never tell the whole story. Part of them were because benefits were too high, let people retire too early and were retroactive. The other half of the story that doesn't get told is the city underfunded the pension system because in 1996 they wanted to have a convention. In 2000 they wanted to build a ballpark, and those were just as bad financial decisions. So we've got to make sure we don't make those in the future. And what that created was the $2.1 billion unfunded liability, which requires us to pay that off between now and 2025, and then it drops dramatically. 2026 would be a great time to be the mayor, because you'll have a lot of money. Pension debt will be paid off, but neither one of us want to be the mayor then, and so you negotiate that pay freeze that lowers that ARC payment. And then I have 2 other ideas on how you do it. One of them I put out months ago is called CPR Plus. If we're being honest, the abuses of the pension system are not your rank and file city worker. The guy who picks up your trash makes $32,000, $33,000, $34,000 a year. He didn't break the pension system. The abuses, the $200,000 a year pensions you hear about, almost entirely come out of the management level folks who are unrepresented, unclassified. They work at the pleasure of the mayor. The mayor can stop that by capping the pensionable pay when they reach $99,000 or figure out some amount that you do it. And then the third thing is I think there's potential for savings if you can get a ruling from the IRS on allowing blended plans and potentially creating some slightly cheaper, a little bit less generous plans for workers that may opt into. But the key thing on pensions is we need to resolve it in a way that's fair, and then we need to move on. Because I don't want to spend the next decade talking about pensions. I want to spend the next decade talking about rebuilding our city.
Thank you, Nathan. Bob, I believe that you opposed Proposition B. Would you please tell us why? Sure. And the next question will deal with your alternative plan. So please don't simply say I have a better plan.
All right. I have a better plan. I am the only one of the 4 candidates who opposes Proposition B, and this shows, our different principles here. Number one, it's unfair. It says to new employees you have a 401k that's subject to the stock market. Please remember, city employees do not have Social Security. We opted out of that 30 years ago as a city. So to put people subject to the stock market after 20 or 30 years of working, they can have 0. That's just not fair. More important, it doesn't work. It's a fraud. It does nothing to reform the current pension system. We have a big debt. We have a big payment that's approaching 1/3 of our budget. You can't run the city when 1/3 of your budget is going to your debt. It doesn't put a nickel into our general fund. It relies on a 5-year salary freeze, which is only a suggestion. You can't pass it by Prop B. The salaries can only be negotiated with your employees. We should have this in the bargaining table, not in the courtroom where it's going to land. If this passes, there'll be 10 years of litigation. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen because it's questionable legally and it's also questionable fiscally. So think about it. It's unfair to employees. And I must say, Mayor Sanders has done a good job in stabilizing that system. The employee contributions have gone way down. Way up. The city contributions have gone way down. They've taken away all the bells and whistles. There are a few things to do. I was just talking to a police officer over here who knows that if you don't have a decent pension system for our public safety employees, they ain't going to work for us. He's ready to retire. If the wrong mayor gets in. who's making sure that this thing passes. So, it's a fraud, you ought to vote against it. And we ought to move into a better plan, which I'm about to do, right?
Sir, that is the next question. Please tell us
Good
about
segue.
your alternative program and why you support that.
You know, there are no good alternatives right now. If there was, we would have solved this long ago. So everybody has to talk about, you know, a one that's least objectionable or more fair than the others. So first thing I do, and I'm so glad that Nathan, like several other things, has just stolen from me shamelessly. Shamelessly. You know I had the cap first. Anyway, I put a cap on pensions at $99,999.99. That is, no more six-figure pensions. All the horror stories that our opponents tell about this are the management employees. They get a phony pay increase their last year or bonuses, and their pension is twice their salaries. That's not right. I can solve that the first day I'm there, because these are not negotiable kinds of situations. We put a cap on those pensions immediately. But more important, interest rates are there at their lowest point in our history. You know, in looking at your own personal residence, if you refinance at 2 or 3% lower, you get cash in your pocket. You don't even have to make more income. Take $1 billion and refinance it at a couple percent lowest interest. We're paying an interest rate on our $2 billion debt of 7.75%. We could get bonds at 6, or we just got a new bond rating at maybe 5.5. I could save, without new taxes, good for a Democrat to say, right? Without new taxes, $550 million over 10 years. That begins to get at some of the infrastructure needs we have as a city. You know, whether they're potholes or library hours, rec center hours, put more police officers on the street, keep our fire stations open. I'm the only one who has a plan that says we can put money in the general fund now. Yes, we stretch out the years we have to pay, but we are better prepared as a city to take care of those needs when you fix things now.
Thank you, Bob. All right, Nathan, would you give us your comments on Bob's?
Well, part of it is our plan. I put it out on paper first, but we'll share it. And that is agreeing to the cap, right? I mean, look, that's common sense. That's easy. Do it now. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It makes sense. I've also called for, you know, as mayor, I said I'll lead by example. You know, I'll take a voluntary pay cut because we're asking, you know, city workers to do more with less, and they have been doing tremendous amount with less for a long time. And I think that it's important to lead by example. You know, I'm not convinced that the pension obligation model is the best way to go. When you look at the experience the city of Oakland had, they lost $245 million, and the same stock market that is very volatile is what you depend on in a lot of instances to do those. I know Governor Corzine, when he was governor back east, said it was not a good proposition, not a good thing to do. So I think we've got a combination of the three things I outlined, which is how I would deal with it. Some of those are similar to Bob's. Some of them are a little different. But I really do think the key point is, I mean, if you watch the news, you would think the only issues facing the city of San Diego are pensions and potholes. And I know we both want to fill our potholes, and we both outlined a real commitment to addressing the pension problem. But I think there's a great opportunity in this election to start talking about a lot of the other challenges that face our city and the city that we want to be in the future. So it's important to elect a mayor that can come in, that can solve it, that doesn't thrive on chaos and dysfunction and prolonging a problem, that isn't going to blame people for things that happened back in the 90s. And let's get it done. Let's move on.
Thank you.
I have one little rebuttal to my friend here. Sure. I would not like to use bonds to do this, but it's the least objectionable of everything. I've studied this thing, I've talked to cities around the country, to counties, states, think tanks, bond councils, everybody. And 30 cities across California have used pension obligation bonds successfully. Our county, which is seen as a model somehow of fiscal correctness and fiscal efficiency, has done that, have done it 3 times and have come out very good with it, actually, to issue pension obligation bonds. I would not like to do it if I had my complete druthers. But here's the issue is we got incredible debt and we have incredible payment. How do you reduce that when Proposition B, by the way, does not do a thing about the payment or the debt? It just says we're going to set up a new system and let the employees take care of it. Is my 30 seconds up? Okay.
Then you're still at the batter's box.